So the plan today is to install an air conditioning unit in this boat, and it's gonna run on AC. It's not really for prepping necessarily, but just for comfort when I'm on the dock, because it can get pretty hot down here. Southern California is not that humid, so it's not going to be too bad, but I just wanted a little bit more comfortable, especially when I'm sleeping overnight. So the first thing I'm going to do is find a spot for the air conditioning unit itself, which at the moment I'm thinking it's going to be in a closet. So right there, and down here there's also some space that I can use to run the hoses down underneath through the bilge. So there's a lot of room in here. So far I haven't put a lot of junk in here, so it's all kind of clean. So this is the area that's going to be behind the closet, and there's going to be an intake. You need an intake for the water cooling. So fortunately it already has a connector in here. So down in there there's already an intake for the salt water. I have to install a water strainer, and then I have to hose that to the pump, and the pump will go to the air conditioner. Then the other thing I got to do is put an overboard outflow for that salt water to come in on the backside, which means I have to punch a hole in the hull. It's above the water line, but still, nobody likes to punch holes in their boat. So the first thing I did was to look for a spot for this unit here, and I found it, and this fits right in this closet. It's pretty small. This is a 6,000 BTU unit, which for California should be okay. So the plan is to permanently attach this, and then I have to put hoses down here for the drain, for the condensate drain, and the back there has the duct, which I'm gonna punch a hole up there for that. So next I needed some AC power, and there happens to be an AC plug right there, and this is part of what I had to scope out in advance. Here I spliced the power in and made this connection here, and then I'm going to route it. This is 12 gauge, and I'm routing it to this hole here, which comes out on the other side, and there I mounted the electronic control box. And this here is the temperature sensor. This needs to stay here because this is going to be the return. And then I have to hook this up to this here at some point, and I need to do one more thing, and that's to take another cable from here and then run it through the pump. So the pump is going to have to exit down there somewhere. Before I actually plug it in permanently, I'm going to test to make sure what the power is. I got the AC on. Here we go. I'm getting 120 volts, so we're good here. I'm going to unplug the power again so I can work on it. Power's unplugged. Just going to test to make sure it is unplugged. Yep. Okay, so no voltage, so we're good. So hopefully I did it right. White to live and blue to neutral, and then green to ground. So I'm going to plug it in, see if it explodes. Plugging in shore power. Okay, there's actually a lit light in there now, so that must be good. Now this doesn't have a pump yet, so I have to wire a pump in there next. But the fact that there's a light in there is pretty good news. That means I did screw up that part. Okay, I'm hooking up the harness. The unit is not yet screwed in, so this is just preliminary. I just want to see if everything is in the right place. So now the harness is in, and I just have to make sure this is out of the way. This is not yet attached, so this is just preliminary. Now fortunately there's a lot of room for me to move around. Actually, this is where the other side is of the closet. So this is in the saloon, and I got a lot of room here, and I was able to remove everything, and it's easy to maneuver. I'm gonna put the pump in here. There's a lot of room in here, but I gotta leave room for a water maker in the future. The closet is on the other side. So that's what I'm gonna do today, is put the pump in, and then I have to wire the AC for it and get that ready. Now I don't have the hoses yet, so the hoses have not arrived. I have ordered like adapters and connectors, because these things in here have different sizes than what I have. So I ordered these, and they're gonna all be converted to 5/8. So I have 5/8 hose, and this is I believe 3/4. This is 1/2, and I'm gonna convert all those to 5/8. There's a sink in here, and this is actually the saltwater intake, and I'm gonna take this instead. This is for the foot pump for salt water, and I don't really need that, so I'm gonna just use it for now as the intake. And I actually already went in there and reattached this, so I actually punched that hole in there. So I'm gonna put the strainer right around here somewhere. This is a lot of problem solving. So I put the unit down here, the pump, and I was going to punch a hole in there for the power, but I found that I could sneak it up there in that corner, which comes out right out here, and it will actually go to the other side. So let me show you the other side. It actually came out here, so the unit is up here. So all I have to do is drill a small hole over there in the corner, and then I can feed the pump power into the box. Okay, I already made a mistake. So I did not drill the hole in the right spot, because there's actually a piece of fiberglass in there, so I have to go further this way. So I really messed up. It's kind of scary, because you could drill a hole in the boat. First gonna make extension lines for the AC. So I got these 12 gauge wires, and I'm gonna cut them to size and preset that, and then I'll be able to continue the line, because this AC line is not long enough. So hopefully this will be the last AC part of this. The rest is going to be tubing and cutting a hole through the hull. Be electrocuted, so no light. There's no light on there, so there should be no power. I ran that through. The green goes to ground, the white is live, and then the blue one is going to be neutral, so just like the other one. So let me wire it in. So it's all wired in. So I just have to connect the other end, and then I'll be done with the AC part of this, which is kind of the most dangerous part. And with 12 volt, the problem is fire, because there's so many amps. With AC, the problem is electrocution, so you got to be concerned about that. So I already wired the sensor in. This is that wire there. So pretty much this is good to go. So in theory, I could close this up, this control box. I'm going to leave it uncovered for now, in case I need to check on something on there. Plus I can see the lights, the status lights. Okay, now I'm going to drill the hole for the AC in the corner. And it looks like lining up the top and bottom looks like a straight line. So should be pretty simple. Let's see. that's it, all cleaned up. That's the end of the AC part of the project. So now I got to plan out the hosing, clamps, and making the through hole fitting for the outboard end. So that's this outlet here has to come out of there. So I have to drill a hole in the side of the boat, which of course is the scariest part about all this. And if you have a leak, then you know this is salt water, so it's a major leak. I mean, it could sink the boat, so you got to be careful. So I don't have the parts yet for that, so that's it for today on the AC portion. That's all I can do today. This is the remote control cable. There's the actual controller, which I hooked up over here. So that's all set, and I wired it out here. I don't know where to put it yet, so I haven't decided. Okay, so it's attached, and I'm going to turn on the AC and see what happens. Obviously, there's no cooling system yet. So I'm just going to do a quick test to see if I can operate it in fan mode. So it's kind of scary because, I mean, it might blow up. So I'm going to turn it on, and I'm going to hit fan. Nothing happening. Let me see. What does that mean? Ah. Okay, fan's working. So I gotta stop this right now. That's kind of shocking, right? I mean, I didn't know what was gonna happen. So I've never installed an air conditioner before. I've installed a refrigerator, so I basically know, and I've done all the stuff with a refrigerator, including refrigerant, and I got like pumps and stuff, so I know how to do this. So looks like all I need is a cooling system and a drain for this. Well, I haven't screwed in the pump, but the pump is in its position, and then I'll just do the drain here, and this is the intake. That's the intake. So that's the and then this is the condensate drain, which I have to feed back to the saloon. So there's still quite a few pieces to do here, but at least all the electrical's done, and it seems to be in basic operation. So wish me luck. In position over here, and that's the cable that we wired on the other end. So now all I have to do is screw that in, and then we'll just be doing the hoses. Working on sailboats is kind of a puzzle. So what I'm trying to do is route that line there, which is ending towards the right. I'm going to put a strainer in there, and I'm trying to pass it through there all the way to the other end, and I don't want to go through fiberglass, so it's very difficult to figure it out. So I use this to snake it, and I found that there's a hole right there, right underneath, that actually fits, so I can actually run the hose directly over there, and it's going to end up right here where this tank is, and then I can actually run it through the bilge, I believe, underneath this, and it should come out of that bilge section right there, so without even punching any holes. That's pretty cool. So this is the outlet of the pump, so I'm gonna have to find a way to pass that through. Maybe I have to drill a hole for that, so it goes in a more direct way. Maybe that's one of the 2 holes I gotta drill. But otherwise, it doesn't look like I have to drill much over here. It's pretty good. Now, I'm leaving the space empty here in case I get a water maker. So right now it can be used for storage, but this would be a handy place for a water maker because of the length. This one here, it's kind of shallow. So some of these have to be used for storage, and some I can save for a water maker when I can afford to do that, because that's kind of expensive. Water makers are expensive. I don't really need it right now, but it's kind of part of the prepping thing to be ready to always have water. I do have a lot of water, so when I went to Catalina, there was no lack of water. I had a lot. The air conditioner is kind of, I wouldn't say a necessity, but it's comfortable, especially in the hot Southern California weather. Okay, so this is the next puzzle. How to run this hose down in there, and I have to cross under here, and I actually got this far, and I can feel it over here, but I got to figure out how to pull it out. So kind of a puzzle again. That's what boating is about. It's just puzzles. So this is not like normal construction or anything like that. It's always all these weird shapes and tight spaces. So I got to figure that out. Actually, I have to run two of them, but this is the more critical one, the first one. So, okay, I figured it out. I'm close now. So what I did was do this with a snake, and I was able to hook the end of that. And it's already here. For perspective, so that's where I'm at, and it's got to go into this closet here, and it's actually right there. So I have to pull it out of there and punch it over to the other side. Oh gosh, that's hard. Okay, so it's up now. Okay, making progress. I gotta make it long enough too. So this is harder than what I'm showing in the video, because that is really hard to pull, and back there it's jamming, and actually it bent a piece of wood in there. The wood is very soft, so I gotta be very careful. Okay, so the next step that I gotta plan on now is I gotta pass it through the raw water strainer. So that's the intake, and I'm gonna take that and put that on this end, and then this will go on the other end. I happen to have two barb adapters. This is 3/4 to 5/8. This hose is 5/8, and this is 3/4. So I have to adjust it and put an extension, and so perhaps I don't need it any longer because I have to put an extension anyway. And here's my little hose, 3/4 I can use as an extension. I'm just going to use small portions of this just so I can feed it through there. Here's the plan. So here's the water strainer. This is the raw water intake pipe. So I got to cut this off. Then this is going to be the intake. I looked at it. That's the intake. This is the outflow. The outflow is going to go to the pump. So I'm going to punch a hole in there and use that big hose that I just put in. You can hear the refrigerator running in the background there just because it's right behind. So I'm going to drill a hole in there, pass the pump through, and then put the strainer on there. Hoses are very, very tight. So what I'm going to do is use a heat gun and try to soften it that way. So one side almost done. Just heat. Just softening this side. I don't have enough clamps, so I'm going to just continue with this and then punch the hole in there. The intake is now done with the water strainer minus the clamps. I just have to finish up with the clamps. I don't have the right size clamps right now. I ran out, so I got to get those, but that's pretty much the setup. So this is the raw water coming in to there, and this goes to the air conditioning pump. So this is positioned here so I can easily reach it and check it to make sure there's no blockage. I just used the same seawater intake that's not being used anyway. I wasn't planning on using it. That was to be used for the water maker or the air conditioner. I feel the need to use a saltwater intake for the foot pump, this foot pump here. Then I can do a Y valve and split it over here and feed it back in here and do it that way. So that's if I ever feel the need to do it. At the moment, that's not something that I need to worry about, so no rush. So that's done, minus the clamps. I just have to run it back to make it taut, and the intake then will be done. Now there's a condensate line that has to come back, and I haven't done that yet. So this is just a line going that way to the pump. So that's a pump intake. That's going to come out of here, and there it is. And it's going to go into that intake in there. And then this has a short run to go into the air conditioner, which is just behind this wall. So the important thing about the seawater intake line is that it has to be below the water line. And everything I've done with the water strainer and everything coming in, that is all below the water line, because this pump cannot handle having to pump uphill. It doesn't have a priming capability. Okay, so I'm back in the closet, and then I'm drilling the hole for the hose that's going to come up to the unit. Okay, so now it's time to attach the hoses to the air conditioner pump. So this is the seawater intake, and it's going to pump that into the air conditioning unit. So that's for cooling. Then on the other end, I'll have to do an overboard outlet so that the seawater goes out of the boat into the ocean. So this is the intake side, and this is the last step here. And I just tighten this, and we're all set. So I put Teflon on there, on these, because they're screw in, and then I'm going to clamp these. The other thing I did was to make sure that I could see inside the hose. So this is reinforced. So the problem is it's going to be bending over there. So I want to see if the seawater is clear coming in, if there's any kind of obstruction in there, like stuff growing. So I want to be able to see that in case I need to kind of flush it. Okay, so this is the other end of this. Tightening that, and that's the last portion of the intake. So the final step, at least as far as the hose on the seawater intake, is this one here, and that's going to go to this through hull. So I have to make a hole in the boat, which I'm reluctant to do. Okay, so what I had to do here was expand the hole. That liner had to be opened up so I can actually use a wrench. So that was kind of difficult. I had a very small hole there before. So I expanded that, and then now that's all connected to the outside and tightened up. Then the next thing I did was create an intake. So this is the intake float. So this is a cabinet here. Put an intake in there. So that will be the return air into the unit. And then on the other side, then I put in the outflow. So that's where the air conditioning comes out. It's actually enough for this room, I think, for all of it. There's a lot of air coming out of there. So then on this side, I put an insulated duct, which is now attached to the unit there. So one more thing I had to do was, this is the drain for the condensate. That's a problem. The condensate drain is a problem. I don't have an actual place for the drain to go out on the other end, so you're not supposed to feed it to the bilge, I presume, so it doesn't get gases backflowing into this cabinet here. So I bought this. This is a condensate pump, which I'm going to install, and I'm going to mount this below the unit, and it's going to have the intake there for condensate, and it's going to pump it out. And it came with tubing, and this can pump up to 32 feet high, so should be okay. Then hopefully I'll just pump it out on the sink and worry about that later, but other than that, it should be okay. Okay, all set. That's in place. And then I have to just attach the cord. It's AC. I cut off that section because I don't need that. So I don't have the condensate drain attached to anything yet, but I got to go into a bucket, and that'll allow me to test it. So we'll do the smoke test right now. Okay, time for shore power. Okay, nothing smells like smoke, so now we're going to turn on the power and see what happens. Something's happening. Something's happening. Okay, so I'm going to check the air. I'm going to check the airflow now and see. Nice. Wow, that is nice. It is such a hot day. It's such a hot day right now. This is feeling really good. So looks like it's a success. Last thing I got to do is figure out how to handle the condensate there. But there's a pump installed now, so it'll pump into the bucket, and that should run for hours on that bucket. But I was planning on maybe having it come out of this. Okay, so that's where the controller goes, and I just put that in there and I screw it in and put the cover on, and I'm like sweating like crazy, and then it's done. You can see here it's a very clean installation, and you can hear the air conditioner running. So I kept the air conditioner running throughout all this so you can actually hear it. So thanks a lot for watching, guys. See you next time.